Howdy, Claire.
Good. Looks like it's working, but let me put you through. How you doing? Bullabab trees. Those look like they're AI generated to me. Can't be real.
This is the difference between a fruit.
Sent that to me.
Sorry, I was voice texting as I was driving.
That's okay. But I didn't know what you were referring to.
The all the property was
Yes. As far as this exercise goes.
no, not on this exercise.
Okay.
I think they're on offer 6. I'm just up to there and try to get with that because we would be more pretty. Get a conservation easement that goes all the way down the canyon tails, it's that entire side. And then you got, they said, this seems higher than I thought the state was too. The city, I thought was like 1.5.
Interesting.
So what do I get there? I mean, that's a 9.5. If we would, I mean, they never went with that big of a number from us. But if we got conservation easement down to Marks,
More than just those properties. So, who are you referring to? Offer.
I mean,
You were saying
Jack's
the
been kind of
county
one. Well, Jack's been wearing a hat.
Proactive approach to it or something. Making
If something's gonna get done because they just
Yeah.
made another $500,000 payment on it. So they're not defaulting anymore. Before we get too
meaning
far.
if we're gonna get it, we
Get it. Or it's gonna be, they'll have so much into it.
Are we ready, gentlemen?
Recorder started?
Do we have to turn these on?
And yes, we'll be ready.
I would actually, Thank you, I just had one, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, welcome everyone to our monthly Cosac meeting for October 7th. Everybody have a chance to review the agenda and minutes? Any questions or comments or anything? Any of those?
You have, as staff, one comment on the minutes.
Okay,
Proposed adjustment, there were 3 discrepancies with regards to who was present. Angie Zetterquist was not present, and neither was Landis from staff, and then Emily Fletcher was present.
Okay.
Listed, so
Okay.
I'd suggest those adjustments.
okay, great. Anything else, committee members? Okay, well, without objection, then we'll accept those amendments to the minutes and approve the agenda. Okay. Okay, so final round application for the Harris Farms. Do you guys want to give a presentation? How would you like to proceed?
Yeah, I can give a quick presentation for the Harris Farms. It's a little small up on the screen, but we can zoom in a little bit. Hey, Arian, how are you doing? So the Harris Farm, we're all pretty familiar with this piece. This is the piece that's located out between Richmond and Lewiston. The applicant is here with us today. They are proposing about 229 acres of farmland to be preserved, approximately located at 10600 North, 300 East. This went through this past summer where Cosac reviewed it, and the council approved the first round application based on the same conditions that Cosac recommended on August 27th, 2024. If you remember, the property, what it was looking at doing was creating a big piece of ag land, then along the Cub River, a section of trail easement to conform to the Richmond Trail Master Plan. And so as part of that, they've came through and they are looking at now moving towards final approval. And as such, they have provided a funding plan that was included in the packet. So as part of that, overall, they've updated to 225 acres. Property, their estimate of the property fair market value was $3,150,000, which is approximately $14,000 an acre. And that's based on comparable market analysis. They estimated the easement value to be about $2,362,500, with an estimate of 75 diminish in the value based on recent comparables.
Was that like a broker's estimate or something?
Yeah, the applicant's here, and they can probably speak to that a little bit more than.
I'm happy to speak to that. Jeremy Christensen with the Utah Division Department of Agriculture and Food.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Catch it on the mic.
Thanks for coming up.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having us, and thanks for considering these projects. So Jeremy Christensen with the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food. I'm the Land Conservation Program Manager over our Conservation Easements Program and the Lee Ray McAllister Fund. So I put together this budget. And the fair market value, the before value we call that, which is the current value of the property without the easement in place, so full development potential based on a comparable market analysis that was provided by a real estate broker that was engaged by the applicants. So that's based on comparable sales and your typical comparable market analysis. The after value, the actual easement value, is the difference between the before value and the after value. And so we estimated that looking at 3 or 4 other easements that have closed in the Cache, and not just in Cache Valley, but along the Wasatch Front over the last couple of years, and looking at the average diminution in value that we see from similar easements. So agricultural easements, which we consider to be minimally restrictive, and also still incorporating the agricultural aspect. So based on that, we estimated that 75% diminution in value, which gave us the estimated easement value.
Would that take into account like comparables on irrigated ag land that have no development potential?
Sort of. We didn't really go about that in that way. The actual appraisal will take that approach. Okay. But for us at this stage in the game, we just looked at other comparable easements where we have a before and after appraisal, and the easement's actually closed based on that, and we can see the kind of average diminution in value that we see.
So, yeah, if I'm doing the math in my head, that'd be about a $3,800 per acre.
At the end of the day, with the easement in place, yep.
Is that, ag folks, is that about what ag land's going for? Irrigated?
I think so.
What was the number?
100%
Around
sure.
3,800 an acre.
Yeah, it's more than that irrigated.
I was gonna say, that seems low.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not into
market values of what land sells.
All
for.
right. So anyway, this is
What would you say?
probably a
would-
conservative estimate.
Well, and comparing it just to other irrigated ag value is a little bit skewed because those other irrigated ag properties may still have some development potential, which might skew their value a little bit higher, whereas where you extract and extinguish all the development, then you probably have a higher diminution, so.
Yeah. The appraisers.
The
do all that.
irrigation portion just brings double the value if it's irrigated or dry.
Yeah, and however, some of that is based potentially on the speculation that those rights could be severed and reused in some other purpose, whereas in this case, the water rights would be tied to the property in perpetuity, so.
Okay. Thanks.
You bet.
Yeah. And so, as you can see, their targeted funding sources are really threefold. They're looking at NRCS funding, which would be about 50% of the estimated easement. So that'd be $1,181,250. Cache County Open Space Bond, what they're asking for is a quarter of the value, which would be $590,625. And then they're also seeking to apply for the Leroy McAllister Working Farms and Ranch Fund, approximately 10% of the easement value, which would be the $236,250. They have a couple other potential sources that they're looking at as well. That'd be North Logan City with the Wetland Mitigation Fund. You saw there's a letter included in the packet that North Logan was supportive of this because they are wanting to use the property for some wetland mitigation. Potential of some greenbelt rollback taxes. The landowner is also indicated that they are willing to dedicate 15% of the property value as part of the conservation easement as well. Within this, they've also included some of the project cost. With the Elkhorn Ranch, if you remember correctly, the project costs were something that the county agreed to cover as part of their easement. And so that'd be something that I would recommend that if we were to move forward with this, that we would include that in the overall value as well. The one other thing we asked for from the property owner this time around is to show some sort of, because we had verbal confirmation from the state that they were interested in holding that easement, but we wanted something more substantial moving forward, and they submitted to us a letter of intent that was also included in the packet, and the state's here with us today to answer any additional questions that you may have regarding the application. Is there any questions?
So is the state working as the steward to kind of shepherd this through?
Yeah, and that's kind of a new role for us. So if you guys know the Leroy McAllister Fund, started in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's moved from the governor's office now to UDAF in the last couple of years, and we created this new land conservation program. And so we're kind of dipping our toe into this direct acquisition work, and so the Harrises have agreed to be one of our guinea pigs as we go along. But we've put in the application for the ASEP funding directly as the entity, and we have signed this letter of intent with them to go forward in developing this project. So,
Tell us more about next steps.
next steps would be once we have the funding obligated, we would kind of engage more fully in the due diligence process. So we've already ordered title work. We've reviewed that. We've done a memorandum that kind of shows any issues with the title, which are very minimal, but some tweaks to the title commitment that we would need to make. We are currently researching minerals, which they have indicated they feel like they own the totality of the mineral estate, which makes it really easy because we don't have to go out and get a geologist report. And so we will begin drafting the deed and going over the restriction language. That takes quite a while because it's forever, so we want to make sure we get it right. So we'll take some months to draft the deed itself. Once we have a working deed of easement, we can start engaging an appraiser, which will need a qualified appraisal to meet the NRCS, and I'm assuming Cosac and all the other funders' requirements to have the value substantiated by the qualified appraisal, and go through our typical due diligence process, have a baseline report drawn up by one of our biological planners at UDAF, and just putting all the puzzle pieces together, basically, so.
In the funding, sort of timeframe, you've already applied for the NRCS funding, or is that
Yes.
funding
So
that's already in place to utilize?
we have applied, so there's no funding obligated yet. There was close to $1 billion on the table from NRCS this year. So we applied to the ASEP, which is the Agricultural Conservation Easement Program. The deadline was the 4th, last Friday.
Right.
So we got the application in before that, and they'll be
Great.
considered. And based on our experience applying last year, we probably should hear by January.
Right. But the Lee Ray McAllister won't be till next year, right?
Correct, yeah, we'll have a batch for Lee Ray McAllister in the fall, so.
So, you already applied to NRCS.
Yes,
One of the reasons it scored really high with us is the opportunity to have the trail in there.
Yeah.
Was that submitted to NRCS as such?
so that was not really detailed in our application to them, but it can certainly be, because it's not scored and ranked the same way, so there's not really a question that asks about that. I think there is actually something whether there's gonna be public access, and so we indicated that there would be, so they may get some additional points in the ranking for that.
So this one, I just know at a certain point, we can't put a trail on there because it wasn't specified in the conservation easement. You don't feel like we've passed that?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No,
That's part of working through the easement agreement, right?
absolutely, yep,
The county will have a role in that
Yep.
as well,
yep.
I would assume. Other questions?
This is for me. I have a question on how this, maybe all of us can answer it. How the donation thing is calculated and what are they signing up to when they say 15 or 20% of this deal is going to be donated by the landowner?
That's a great question. So, the total easement value is the value, and it will be substantiated by an appraisal of the development rights or whatever that they're giving up. And so generally a landowner would want to seek to get compensated for as much of that value as they can for those rights that they're giving up. However, most people that go into an easement have a balance of kind of financial considerations and also some kind of altruistic motivation of wanting to just do this great thing for, the greater public. And so that landowner donation kind of captures that charitable intent of the easement and allows them to,
You can do it on a tax return.
exactly, I mean, I'm not a tax expert, so I have to be really careful about how I talk about these, but, so I'm not giving advice, but, they can claim any portion of the easement value that they don't receive compensation for in cash, they can claim as a federal tax deduction, as long as all of the transaction comports with the IRS regulations. And we're not involved in that side, so they have to hire like an attorney and a tax preparer to help make sure there needs to be a separate appraisal, all these other, things that they need to do that. But that allows them to basically claim that as a tax deduction, helps them offset some of the capital gains liability that they'll get from actually selling the easement, and
Selling the-
counts as income.
Yeah, it's a
and
capital
is
gain.
taxable. And
Yeah,
so if you,
Get a 1099 on that. If the NRCS puts $1 million in it, they're going to get
that's correct,
It's
yeah,
taxable.
that's correct, as capital gains.
Yeah.
So that will help, potentially offset
Regarding
that
this.
by making that donation, but,
They do. I had that question asked, and so I need to be able to explain it back.
no, that's a really good question, yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that when they make the donation, they don't physically write a check.
Correct,
To anybody.
yeah, correct, they're just, it's like, accepting less than full value, full market value of the easement, yep,
Okay, thank you.
You're very
That
welcome.
helps a lot.
good question.
Do we have feedback from NRCS that 50% is feasible? Is that quite likely?
It's just based on the program requirements, so, they will pay up to that amount, and so that's just the typical request would be
And
50%.
same question on the Ray McAllister. I was surprised 10% sounds low compared to what I was expecting, because it's
Yeah.
prime farmland. It seems like
Exactly, yeah,
It's in
but
their wheelhouse.
Lee Ray McAllister, we only have $1 million a year right now. That's our appropriation we were able to secure, and so, as you know, $1 million doesn't buy a lot of real estate anymore. So we have to kind of, shepherd that around. So all these numbers are estimates and could certainly change based on appraisal, based on the project scope and parameters. But Lee Ray McAllister is never going to be the bulk of the funding. We rely on the NRCS, and we kind of try to just bridge the gap.
Okay.
The value, that's, the final value will be determined by the appraisal. So
Correct.
these numbers are educated projections.
Exactly, yeah.
What, you know, the final numbers will be just based on that appraisal, maybe higher or lower.
Exactly, and you see the cost of one of these appraisals is pretty significant, so we're trying to hedge by doing the best we can by making a really diligent estimate, but it is just an estimate at this point to fundraise off of, and then the actual numbers kind of come together with the appraisal.
And Lee Ray McAllister, I mean, right now, you're only funding 4 to 6 projects a year. Right?
Yeah, we just had our cycle, and we just voted, and we funded 6 projects, but we actually had some carryover funds, so we actually obligated close to $2 million this year as opposed to 1. So if that gives you a sense of our capacity at the moment.
And have those awardees been announced yet?
We haven't made like a big public announcement. They've been notified, and that's public information, but we have not made like a press release yet.
Was Elkhorn Ranch?
Elkhorn Ranch was one of the ones that was funded. Yep, it was our highest.
Well, that's
it was
good
our
news for us.
yeah, it was our highest ranking application, and it was funded at the full requested amount. So, that's a tremendous project, and it's like the very kind of archetype for what like Lee Ray McAllister I think was conceived to try to do. So
It was at the 250-ish level, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe they asked for $250,000, at least that's what the
I could
council
look
left
it up,
out.
but yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is similar to.
Exactly.
This
Yeah.
one.
You know, I mean, the 500 would be a fairly high request in the context of just giving out $1 million a year. However, with, you know, if we had the NRCS and we have Cosac obligated funds, that would certainly raise the, you know, specter of that project, I think, so.
How does this project fit in the ranking, I guess, within Lee Ray McAllister?
I think it fits really well with the ranking, and one thing that we're hearing a lot of feedback on is, you know, Lee Ray McAllister was kind of conceived in this when it was moved to UDAF and given this new agricultural mandate and focus, you know, we want to try to do more like farm ground, right? Because we're talking about food security and things like that. Utah does a really great job of growing beef and grain, and we've already funded a lot of big rangeland projects, and those are great. You know, we do that really well, so we should fund those types of projects because we should protect our nest egg, you know, what we do really well. But I think in the future, thinking about food security into the future, I think we need to think about these irrigated farms as well as a really key piece of that. And so I think this fits really well with our
That
mandate.
is funded annually by the legislature?
Say that again?
This is funded annually by the legislature?
Yes, yeah, last year we secured a $1 million ongoing yearly appropriation, so we're gonna be fighting for more, but that's
Well,
what we
10
asked.
sounds better, yeah.
Depends what we asked for, but
Before that, it was kind of year to year,
it
wasn't it?
was drips and drabs year to year, so.
Okay.
But one of our kind of feathers in our cap is I went back through all of our data over the last 25 years, and the average leverage is 7 to 1. So for every dollar that the state has spent, we've been able to leverage that pretty significantly. And actually this year, we granted out 1.725, and the total project cost, which is the total value of all those easements that we contributed to, was like in the, you know, $30 million or something like that. So it was more like a 15 to 1 leverage this year, which is really significant. The legislature loves to see that, so we really try to play up how well, and it just.
We're not getting that high though.
Yeah, but it really emphasizes like it's a shared priority, and it really kind of emphasizes that, you know, that we're all trying to work together to make this happen, so.
That's kind of the goal the county has as well.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
yeah,
We can't all be 15 to 1.
exactly, but we can try.
And 1 to 4 is pretty good.
It is, I mean, it's significant either way, so.
Oh, yeah, that goes, do the multiple on that on $20 million, that's a lot of
Exactly,
million bucks.
exactly, that's right.
One thing I noted, committee, when I was looking at the information is if we take the Elkhorn Ranch one that we've approved, sounds like it's being funded, and this one, and add them together just for the Cosac funding, if we're saying, you know, of our 20 million, we're probably gonna spend 18 on the open space stuff and maybe up to 2 on the trail easement stuff. That those two combined are about 10% of that amount, so 1.8 million,
10%.
just 10%, yep.
If we do 590 here.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, that 10%'s out the door.
Yeah, just
Okay,
some context. Yeah,
if both of them go.
yeah,
This one's a little bit tougher because I think this has the trail in the mix.
definitely, and maybe is funded partially by
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
other two,
That we
right?
never formalized, but it's kind of there.
Yeah,
And the wetland mitigation part, I wanted to kind of highlight that too. I mean, that kind of fell into our lap, honestly. But the city of North Logan had already identified this property as kind of prime for what they needed to do. They've got some mitigation commitments that they need to fulfill from some other projects. And so they had already, you know, GIS identified this property as a great fit. And so incorporating that into the project, I think, just makes it that much stronger, and potentially setting aside, as you saw in their document, some additional land that would be managed for riparian restoration, and then could be, you know, actually restored and managed for riparian habitat in the future if they wanted to. So it gives them some additional options, and, you know, enhances the viability of the agricultural operation too, so.
great. Any other questions for Jeremy?
I noticed that it was, the amount, of course, is to be determined. Do we have any idea, range? I'm guessing it's fairly small.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tricky to, because we have to come up with how many acres they're actually talking about restoring and dedicating to that, and then try to find a value per acre that we can kind of agree on. So it's probably not gonna be like a really significant number. It's a small acreage, but every little bit counts, you know, and the more parties that we have contributing, I think really strengthens the project, so.
They actually take ownership then?
No,
They
no. Landowners remain the owners. Yep, they just put an easement in place, and it actually, we can incorporate it into our easement. We can separate that area out. It can have its own management.
Okay.
Or restriction, I shouldn't say management, but restriction.
Still titled by the landowner?
Correct. Yep, stays on the tax rolls with the landowner. Yep.
I didn't know that.
Could it be $50,000, or is that?
I think that's probably, yeah, probably a fair ballpark based on some of our discussions, so.
It's a good scoring for the NRCS, excuse me.
I know NRCS scores higher with the county. I guess you put that it passed the initial phase. How did you kind
Yes,
of
yeah,
tell
we had
NRCS?
said, yeah, that they had, you know, gone through this process and had received the initial, moving on to the next phase, so.
Anything else? Kendra? Okay, thanks, Jeremy.
My pleasure, thank you guys.
Was there more you wanted to present?
The
Stephen?
only thing that I put in that,
Oh, yeah.
that may be helpful is I put in a draft resolution that would go in front of the county council.
Great.
One thing that may need to be updated that I didn't think about at the time is I just put in the requested amount, but that might not, I don't think that includes all the administrative work that we've
Costs.
typically have included. So
Okay.
if you'd want to approve this as the recommendation, this resolution, that would be something that I would recommend further consideration, whether or not you'd want to include those administrative costs as part of this funding.
And then those administrative costs were another $21,000, basically, just
Yes.
under 21,000.
Can I just add something, make a plug for that? I was not aware actually that you guys were considering funding those administrative costs, and I just want to say what an enormous help that would be for these types of projects, because those upfront administrative due diligence costs are one of the biggest hurdles that we have. And there's literally like no source of funding out there that will pay for those types of administrative costs. So the fact that you guys are considering doing that is, tremendous and should be applauded, I think. So that's a huge, huge consideration for having these projects get to the finish line.
Thanks.
So thanks for that.
I was gonna go to Regan for the funding for the cost.
Yeah, that works too.
I was gonna ask Regan if he would help me.
Yeah, you should.
I bet he will.
I'll talk to my rich uncle tonight.
Is that everything? And so we would just add that to the resolution, or?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
What was the county share on Elkhorn?
About 25% as well. And so I believe they were going to do, I'd have to look at what was approved, but I think they're looking for about 10% from McAllister. It's actually, the numbers were pretty similar. And actually, we were about 35%.
That's what I was thinking.
We were
It was higher.
35%, so it was a little bit higher.
It had scenic value and some other things in there.
But it cost a lot more too, per acre.
Yeah, it was.
Location, location, location.
Mr. Harris, did you or your son want to say anything? You guys good?
I'm good.
Okay, great.
Except they want me to fund it, yeah.
Make him pitch.
We vote in favor of you funding
That's
it.
why I came in late, and you had it all done, yeah.
That's right.
No, I just say thank you, thanks for considering, Jeremy, this is awesome just to get where we're at, so very appreciative.
I'm glad the state of Utah was here today. I appreciate that, it really helps.
Yeah, that's a really,
Immensely
Yeah.
helpful.
That's really helpful, Jeremy. Thank you.
It's good to see you.
When I heard about this easement thing about a year ago, it just blew my mind. I go, finally, there's somebody out there trying to preserve what my dad and other farmers did when they built these farms, they settled the valley. People always think about houses, houses, houses. Well, who built the valley to begin with? It was our grandparents and parents, and my dad built this farm, and I heard about this, and it's the greatest thing I've ever heard. I mean, it was fantastic. Now, I took over Dad's, and I tried to make it better. Casey's gonna take it over, and knowing him, it's gonna be better for somebody else too, and I really appreciate everybody involved. Thank you.
It wouldn't happen if you didn't come to us, so thank you. Committee members, what would you like to do? You guys, how do you feel about working towards taking some action today, or would you like to contemplate this a little more? What do you think?
I feel like we need to take action. I think they've crossed all the boxes. They hit the deadline within RCS. I think we make a board approval and take it back to the county for a vote. I don't know if there's anything left to do.
That's how I feel.
it's a big number, and I look at the 10%, and we've got some visual, but this one doesn't have visual, but it does have, it's really the public access that, for me, yeah, I mean, I think outside of that, this would be a tough one, because there's a lot of land that people can't see that probably would love to do this, but the ability for people to walk. So I get a little worried that we're at 10%, but at the same time, it's hard to not do it, especially with the state contributing I mean, so much is so far along on this project.
Yeah.
I think it's even more streamlined than some land conservancies do in terms of that process.
What was the acreage on Elkhorn compared to this one?
I want to say 160.
Yeah, it was smaller.
It's a lot larger.
But they have a 60-acre
They
piece
already
that's
had
already under easement held by UDAP, so it was originally conceived to be the whole property, but the Lee Ray McAllister funding was so limited, and they did the original easement that they put about 60 acres under, and now this will bring the whole thing together.
So you have the original easement?
Correct.
Are you having this easement as well?
We will be co-holding it with Bear River.
Okay,
Land
all right.
Conservancy.
Yeah, so altogether, it's a little over 200 then, is it? I mean, or similar to this size. Pretty great,
Yeah.
yeah.
You folks that work for the county how's the county gonna look at this? It's a pretty big number, is it? And this is what's proposed by the applicant? Negotiate that, or is there a need?
I mean, we haven't done many of these.
Yeah.
So, at the last time, the terms that the council approved for the Elkhorn was that they also seek Leroy McAllister funds as part to try to do that couple fold. The landowner contribution is very comparable with Elkhorn, right? So, all in all, I think the ask is a pretty comparable to the Elkhorn Ranch. And so, really, I think if I feel comfortable with the committee making a positive recommendation on this at this time, like I said, it feels pretty comparable to the other one that we approved.
With some important differences. I would answer that question and say, I think they'll be very receptive to this project.
I know they
These
increased our,
numbers. Yeah,
our
they
amount
did.
on the last one.
They did.
Yeah. We cut it down, they put it back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think you make a great point, both of you, right? Should we be scrutinizing, you know, these sorts of projects a little bit more, maybe, for a better deal or something like that? Or, you know, recognizing also this is only the second project and we'll probably get better at that and feel, I think our interest maybe evolves, you know, along with the program as we do more and more. And as the pool shrinks, you know, maybe there is more scrutiny.
And
right?
you'll create more interest from
Yeah,
landowners to come forward.
yeah.
I think we have the advantage of NRCS being included in this.
Yes,
Because
that's big.
they'll go through, definitely I would say, you know, ours is pegged to what NRCS does rather than, you know,
They
we gotta
pass
do
the
something
end-
like half of NRCS, what NRCS is willing to do.
If they jump through the NRCS hoop,
Right.
it's a good one. How's that?
Yeah.
But I'd say no matter what we do, it's no more than a percentage of NRCS, and at this point, it's 50% of NRCS is what would be willing to contribute. And, you know, our goal was at least 1 to 4, a 4 to 1 ratio. When we were running we were
Sure.
hoping we could get
Yeah.
up to 8 to 1. That number was talked about. Leroy McAllister's pulling 7 to 1 or whatever it is. But we seem to be more in the 4 to 1
At the start.
at the start.
I think we'll get better at that, too.
And this and Elkhorn are both, I think they both click the unique, and I don't know that this one is quite so irreplaceable. There are probably others, but it's unique and you've got the trail access.
Yeah.
So I think,
Yeah, and we're on, it's kind of like even though we're paying for an easement, I'm kind of paying for trail access in that. Yeah.
Well, you got
Check that box.
Richmond City involved, and you got North Logan City involved too.
Did Richmond City, are they good?
Yeah, so we talked to Richmond City, and Richmond City said they are supportive. They didn't ever send us a letter, but they are really supportive of the project and securing the easement. Right now, they're studying their sewer ponds right now, so they're not quite at the point where they want to build the trailhead and help do the rest of the trail, but they are supportive of the process and had a positive recommendation overall for it. Great.
can we put some conditional language in there? Because we
Yeah,
wouldn't want to do it without that.
We'd be able to have something in a statement letter when we get to the council for a vote from Richmond City.
Yeah, we can seek a statement letter from Richmond. I think they sent our trails department an email, and I'll see I can't remember exactly what it said.
About North
but
Logan City.
North Logan,
Send a letter.
they sent a letter, but they didn't have any valuation commitment as part of
Okay,
it.
well,
Can that mitigate what we're doing at all?
So I wondered, like 25% is for everybody in the county, and if they can help with that.
Yeah.
And then the county's paying the administrative costs in addition, so.
Yeah, we're paying the administrative.
Well, if you have the support of those two communities, I think for public sentiment or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah, that really.
that helps.
And I'll say too, that the public access is rare. Very, very, very few landowners will incorporate public access into a conservation easement. So I would treat that as kind of
Yeah.
rare gem.
That's getting a vote from us. That's where it's
And
coming
that's,
from.
yeah, I think that's, because easements provide a lot of public benefits, but public access is not usually one of them. And so that's just a nice cherry on top, I think, for this.
I think, Claire, to your point, what excites me about this project is that it's in an area for the potential to really expand.
Yes.
And hopefully, I mean, it would be helpful to go west, but even more helpful to go east with additional lands
You
that
got
do get up
Pepperidge-
there to the.
Pepperidge
And-
there, and
Pepperidge Farm, other
me, it's-
landowners that'll maybe be interested, so it's kind of an anchor project in my mind.
To me, it's going north with the trail is actually
Yep.
the anchor that I see.
Yeah.
yeah,
Did you have
that's
a
the key
chance
to it.
I've reached out twice, haven't been able to get hold of him, I'll still keep trying, so.
Okay, we have,
He's a doctor, he's hard to get hold of, I've tried.
talk to his wife.
Yeah, she's the one on the voicemail, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're together, it's her inheritance, so,
No, I'll keep trying, I've reached out twice.
yeah, that would be a real, to
I was
extend
hoping
that.
to get an answer that has something.
Yeah, we need something before you get to the county on this vote. If they are aware of what it is and they're comfortable with it, you're tying the back end and the front ends together in an oil road on each end.
Well, I wonder if that's county staff could do that.
Oh, maybe they should, well, that's fine with me.
Yeah, we can definitely reach out. I just need their contact information and let them know about the surrounding project and
Yeah,
see what their interest is.
yeah, put tax department on it and they'll call you back.
How are you feeling, Kendra?
Good. If anyone wants to know, if we add in the administrative costs, it's $611,375 that we're asking.
Okay, that'd be the total. Great.
So it's plus administrative,
Yeah.
25 plus administrative.
That'd be my suggestion. I mean, that's obviously up to a committee vote, but. We can also pass it without that and make that note to the county council, so.
Just thinking of the split between trails and everything else, if trails is 10%, would we? So some percentage of this would maybe meet that requirement for trails then?
I would argue that, for sure, yeah.
And so evaluating the value
The
of the
trail
trail there
easement.
compared to all the other projects that you guys know about, is this as good as most of them?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean,
It sweetens it, puts it together. You're giving open space along a trail. That's kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah, the ideal would be open space along, the Bonneville shoreline area would be the top,
'Cause there's more
value in the
people.
trail. And, then you get views, maybe you're not, it'll score highly there. It won't score as high on some of the other things, but, any trail is exciting to me, especially when it's connected to a master plan in the
And it's
county.
along a waterway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
along the waterway.
Yeah, I think there's a value because it's in the middle of the valley along a river corridor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And while, the state might view this as a cherry, for us, to me, it's part of the ice cream, is the trail. But-
Yeah.
Okay.
Kendra, you feel good about moving forward with a vote today as opposed to waiting?
Yeah, I'm okay with us moving forward with the vote. I don't know if we're allowed to there's a lot of conversation last night about whether or not, or not last night, last time with the conversation about putting stipulations on it, that I don't know if that's something we can do, but.
What do you mean, what type of stipulations?
That we were just talking about a minute ago before the county would vote on it, that other things are secured first or other entities involved? Or if we should just put forward that this is what we recommend and go with that?
I think when we looked at the trail, because the trail was one of the stipulations that could be, like, can it continue? The one thing is it's not a bad out and back as it is. If you put a parking lot there, I think you still have a 3-mile round trip.
Yeah, that'd be about right.
So a 3-mile round trip, at least to me, makes it better than if it was like, you get a half a mile, you get a quarter mile out and a quarter mile back, so. And it's along a waterway.
Well, they'd be back to their car too.
I think the stipulation, I'd like to see with that is that, yeah, we're voting on it because of that public trail access. And so that's what I would want going to the council,
Okay.
is open space with the public trail access.
And maybe we do that by saying, or just articulating that dollar value that we're approving, a portion of which should be funded by trail easement.
That's a good idea.
But I wouldn't separate it but yeah, that we're funding it because of a trail easement along the river.
Would Richmond's trailhead then be a condition? Would that be a stipulation, or is that too firm?
Like I said, what we've received from Richmond is they have been supportive of it, and they want the trail preserved, but they're not at a point where they're ready to start planning out what their facility looks like.
So with the term you're looking for as future trail access, so it is conditional, but it's.
Conditional that we get trail easement.
Yeah, so it's gonna happen, but the trail's not ready yet, and so.
Right.
I'm just.
Yeah, I mean, conceivably, you could close on the easement that contains that access easement, and then the trail could never materialize because of factors well
Because that's
outside
not funded.
anybody's control. And so I don't know whether the landowner should be penalized because Richmond City never put the trail in. They've allowed it, and it could, 20 years down the road, somebody could come back, and then that easement is still in place at the property to where it could come together.
Are you gonna have to draw that as part of this whole submission?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's good news. Yeah.
Or at least the range that it would be
Yeah,
in?
we could, I mean, it'll be conceptual, but we could put it on a map and show you with the wetland mitigation area, the trail corridor, and then the agricultural protection area.
That could move it a little bit.
Yeah. So one thing typically, like we're doing this right now with the northern section of the BST, is we're doing a feasibility study, which we're trying to find the alignment, and then we're going to secure those easements. And then once those easements are secured, then we'll start construction of the trail. And so that's what I envision with this, is once we can get the easement secured and get that, we'll do a draft of where it could be located. And then we'd get the easement secured, and then we'd go and try to find funding to build it out, either through RAPS, or there's a lot of grants through the state to build these type of trail systems as well, so.
Is it correct to think that there's two parts of it? One is the easement, and that would be connecting the easements from the Harris property to the road. And is that through Richmond City property?
Yeah.
Which
That
no
wouldn't-
easement needs to be gained for that.
Pardon?
No easement needs to be gained for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
The city could simply build it.
Yep.
yep. But the other part would be actually building a trail, building a parking lot. That could be down the road, but it would be comforting to me if we knew that the public would actually have an easement for a trail, or the county would have an easement at some point to be developed later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get that. Maybe what we could potentially work on is trying to get a more firm commitment from Richmond, other than just general support of the process.
Great. Other thoughts or questions? I suppose if there are none, someone is welcome to make a motion.
Should we look at the text? You had some text there.
Yeah, and I actually realized there was probably something. And so essentially what the recommended text is: the county council approves the Harris Farm open space application, Exhibit A, containing the following parcels, And then the criteria of that approval is that the county shall fund no more than the 596.25, which we just talked about, we potentially need to raise that. Second one is the county shall review and approve the easement documents and enter into a written agreement with the applicant before dispersing any funds. And the third is the final easement shall preserve the agricultural use of the property and establish a trail easement along the Cub River. The other thing I thought about in here is, should we add wetlands into C? That's something I didn't think about when I was putting this together.
Well,
It wouldn't hurt.
it wouldn't hurt because
This
it's,
is the time to lay out the whole thing. I think.
Yeah, the rationale for our,
This
want
isn't
wetland-
binding, this
in
is a
some manner you want
recommendation.
wetlands in there because it's a component of that value of that easement.
So agricultural use of the property, wetlands, and establish a trail easement along the Cub River.
I think you're probably okay saying wetlands preserve, which is what you were.
That's what I was starting, but I was wondering if the preserve were.
Or preservation, not preserve.
I see.
Would it be preservation?
Restoration.
One's a verb, one's a noun.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
What
just,
do we want with the trail easement? Would we want to cite the Richmond Trail Master Plan?
Sure.
Yes, that's what's gonna make it work.
As per the.
Yeah, I think we need to bring that in, a note or something that we need trail access to the road, basically, or whatever.
Is it also part of the Cache County Trails Master Plan?
I looked and it wasn't super clear in that area. We do have a trail that follows along the Cub River. But in that area, it looks like it kind of diverts a little bit, but though it wasn't super clear on the PDF that I was looking at. So we're updating our master plan right now and we're gonna make sure that is more clear, the intent.
it's a little unique, and I think it's because it's part of the whole project, but I would anticipate if a city was to come forward with funding their, part of their trail system, that we would look for a co-play with it, but.
Yeah, and one thing we're actually doing right now in our trails department is updating our master plan. Is a lot of cities have updated theirs since we updated ours in 2016, 2017. And so that way they line up a little bit better.
Yeah.
Would it be out of scope on where it says establish a trail easement along the Cub River to include the words to the public road there, or is that bring in Richmond too much?
Yeah, I think
And it's out of scope of the property.
that'd be my only concern is they don't have much control over that other than Richmond City owns
Yeah.
that property and has planned to do a
Gotta work
trailhead.
right. You
I guess
on that one.
it's something I would want Cache County to lean on Richmond a little bit to get an understanding before they write a check.
Yeah, and that's something we can work on for sure.
I don't know if we put it in here or make them aware.
After preservation, you got an extra space.
Thank you.
On the 25%, of easement value, I think the 25% is just as important as the 590. I'm just, 25% of the easement value. Yeah, because the easement value could come in lower, right?
Yeah.
Would you separate those? Because and then make no more than 25% plus administrative costs so that you don't combine them, but separate them.
Yeah, and I think we want to max our administrative cost as well.
But yeah, so they just don't get lumped into one sum, but they're designated.
County council seemed to be comfortable with tagging it to a dollar figure on the Elkhorn deal.
Yeah.
They come in at not percent, they, not to exceed or whatever, but anyway, it went from a million.
Yeah, we could just end up not being on a 4-to-1 ratio if we don't do that.
Yeah, well, they wanted a dollar figure more than a percentage is what I was feeling.
those two figures could be different, the dollar and the 25%, so maybe we ought to either say the greater, the lesser of, or just say approximately 25%.
Okay.
So we could,
Just put in there no more than 25% of the easement value. Just put the words no more with it.
That would top it, yeah. You gotta separate the administrative costs from that value.
And that could be of the final easement value. Because that will be determined by NRCS.
Or by the appraisal.
Yeah.
Appraised easement value.
That kind of puts our brackets on it.
So, but what if those two numbers are different? I think we need to decide which one prevails.
Well, it's no more than, I'd say it's the
Would it be,
the lower of the,
we go, or no more than 25% of the future easement value.
it's the lower of the two.
Zoom in a little bit. So that's what I have. County shall fund no more than 590,625 or no more than 25% of the final easement value.
The lower of the two.
Whichever is less.
or if you just replace or with
Yeah,
and?
whichever is less.
Thank you.
Make it ten.
Lesser. Yeah.
Okay.
What else? Do we have a double negative there?
Yeah, that's
No
what I was
more
just
than
thinking.
590 or no more than 25%.
No. Not with the or.
Okay.
So once again, I don't think that number incorporates the administrative.
Maybe plus approved administrative cost?
Yeah, but we need to specify that.
Could just say, Kendra, you added all this up, right?
Got 5 guys writing it. Yeah.
2,750.
20,750.
Yeah.
We want to just make it 21.
Plus approximately, or something.
Up to.
Yeah.
Say costs.
There you go.
I think you have a double space after the 59,625 again.
I think you're right.
And is there one after the comma value, or is there one or two?
Mine must be one. Yours must be better than mine. I think that's.
Now I'm
just
starting to question myself because I'm on an angle. It's in big print, it's really close, I have a hard time reading it now.
I feel like I'm the opposite. It's right in front of me. I'm much better at catching this.
What else, committee members?
Does it matter that that's not a complete sentence?
Yeah. Let's make it a complete sentence.
In addition, the county shall fund no, up to, Anybody ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve the Harris Farm, what would you call it?
Final round application.
Okay? For the, as read to us.
Anyone want to second it or have any questions?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to recommend final round application approval for the Harris Farms project according to the resolution that we've drafted here. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Congratulations and good luck.
Good job, Shane. Did all the hard work building the farm. All I did was push paper.
So just so you guys, I'll put this on the next council agenda, which the next one is tomorrow, which we won't be able to do on that agenda, but then following after that is in 2 weeks, so. I'll send you an email and let you know.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is the first round application for the Silva properties. If I could give a presentation, Stephen, or
Brandon's gonna
Brandon?
take care of this one.
Okay.
Should just be pretty brief. So this first map just shows the parcels. Oh,
Zoom up.
just shows the parcels. There's 4 of them. They're approximately 155 acres proposed in the application. And if you could go to the second map, shows the next map will show basically the same information, except for we do have on the current county master plan. It's labeled as a rural on-street route. It's potential bike lane or trail adjacent to the existing road. This is categorized on our GIS system as a quiet street. And so I think that's some of the reasoning for that recommendation that a trail or bike lane of some sort be put through here. The next map deals with the zoning, which is the city zoning, which is A5 zoning, so a minimum of 5 acres for agriculture. And then our next map is the farmland map. Most of this is prime farmland if irrigated, and then a small amount is farmland of local importance and then statewide importance. The statewide importance is the smallest piece in red on the west side, and then the green is the local importance. So I would say about 95% of it is in the prime farmland if irrigated, which is the yellow. And then on our next map, we have basically dealing with waterways. The main waterway in this and water feature in this area is just the Bear River, just to the east of the property. And then there is a small amount of wetland shown on one of the parcels, the second to the from the south, and then let's see. There was nothing that I noticed in regards to significance of wildlife except for the water body or the waterway itself, which would obviously attract a wider range of wildlife. But I didn't notice any specific species or anything that stood out, or like there being a migratory bird area or something to that effect. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
And this is within Trenton city boundary?
Yes, that's correct, sir. It's inside Trenton town, so.
We've not been able to communicate with Trenton yet, but that is something we're gonna make sure we do before the next meeting. So we don't know if they have any opinions on the application.
So you're welcome to just discuss what you'd like to do with the application. there's any other questions, we're happy to answer those as well. If you want to schedule a site visit, feel free to let us know. We'll be happy to take care of that. Or if you want to, talk about other funding options to encourage them to pursue, or anything else.
I also believe Mr. Silva here, he's here and available for any questions you might have.
As I visited with Mr. Silva, he said he would be amenable to a trail access on the east boundary down towards the river. So that's on the table.
Okay.
There's a road on.
Canal Road right here, right?
Yeah, road on my left, a road on the north, and then the east boundary is that double red line, and then it drops back down into Bear River. There's a little reservoir, that blue picture, there's a blue reservoir there.
So it might be worth discussing at some point with the applicant what his thoughts are about a trail on the west side as well, since that's shown on the county master plan. So,
Where's the county master plan?
Well, they're just talking about.
On-road bike lane.
Bike lane or something there.
yeah.
On that road.
So, and as I talked to one of our trails coordinators, that I think he was open to either bike lane or a trail of some sort, so separated or.
Okay.
So.
But with that, there would be multiple landowners involved. This doesn't really gain us on.
Right.
That would be this would be a little piece in a big puzzle.
Adolfo, would you want to step up and tell us why you want to do this, please, for a minute? Yeah, Tell us a little bit about
over there.
why you're here today. What's your logic?
Well, basically, I'm getting ready to make a will for my family, and then I really don't want my kids to sell it for homes and stuff like that. And I have so many people approaching me every day because the potential is there to build homes. I got approximately probably a mile of oil roads, around my property, and there's a lot of people interested in buying. And I know if I kick the bucket tomorrow, they probably just sell it. I work pretty hard to put it together, and I want to preserve it as a farm. And what a great program, when I talked to my lawyer and my accountant. Actually, my accountant is the one that encouraged me to come and talk to you guys. He says, if you really want to preserve it, talk to them, and put it in this easement program. And I think it'd be great if I could. But that's basically my desire is for keep it as a farm.
Do you think other landowners around you have similar interests, or what do you think about that, the potential?
I don't even know if they know about the program because I didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, the people that I know that own land around me, they don't need the money.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they love the farm.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, and I'm pretty independent where I am. If you notice, my property is on the north side, there's a road, public road. On the west side is a public road all the way through. On the south side is the water canal.
West Cache. Yeah.
West Cache. And then it goes all along the property. So I'm basically very private, as far as other neighbors have any problems with it, The one that might be a little problem would be the east side, because I do have a boundary with a gentleman that owns that land. I don't know if he'll be interested. I can talk to him about it.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Silva?
One thing I'd add, I know most of the land in that area of the county. I've worked with Mr. Silva on cropping it. He's got the best 120 acres in Trenton, and soil quality and productivity as a farm. Water, soil type. It presently has a pivot on it that's just been placed on it, which it's, if I could buy it, I'd buy it. He don't want to sell. But anyway, that's kind of the history of this. He's pieced it together. There was 4 or 5 owners originally. He's pieced it together, and it's the best piece of dirt, or as good. There's no better piece of dirt in Trenton or Lewiston than that 120 acres for farming purposes. I said, why don't you put some fertilizer on? He says, I don't need to. I'm okay.
I go to the county to get, to the university to get my samples, And they told me in the last 6 years, out of 6 years, 3 times they told me I don't need to put anything in it. It's just good soil.
Yeah.
I get some good harvests out of
He
that.
had potatoes on it this year, so.
Yeah, we just harvest 82 acres of potatoes out of it. And it's 155 acres, but what happens is Trenton, I got to deal with Trenton that I have to have 5 acres for each home, which I have 4 homes on along the north and south road. So that's why I drew a line in there to keep 20 acres, so I don't break no rules with the city. So.
Other questions?
How long have you farmed there?
How long have I farmed it? Probably 15 years.
One thing I've asked him, how did you piece this all together?
Paying high price.
It's tough to piece something like that together in Cache Valley.
Who owns the piece directly east with that lead?
What's that?
Who owns that piece right directly?
You got it.
The one in
Wilson Kamala Robbins Trust?
yes.
Yeah.
And then it goes over to Utah Power.
Yeah. Utah Power has it. They bought that property along the river there.
Yeah, this is all Utah Power and Light.
Oh,
It's all in a conservation
Is that
wildlife deal.
mitigation property?
Yeah. Flood control, yeah. But they do have it in a wildlife preserve or whatever you want to call it.
So there is access into that.
What's that?
The Utah Power sometimes doesn't allow access, but they do on this one.
Yeah, they own it.
what are folks thinking here for the Silva project?
I think it's tough in a couple of ways. There's not like glaring public benefit. I think it's more on the agriculture, and there's probably, there's a lot of properties like this that could be in the mix. And I'm not quite sure it's threatened right now. I could see as we go down the road that things change, but that's generally my feel. We've seen some similar isolated stuff.
Other thoughts?
I would say I'm not sure that the trail, you know, the access on the west side. I think because there's, you know, some houses right there that line up, it's not like a piece that we could probably put a trail on that goes along there. It would just be part of the road. Whether or not this piece is preserved. And I don't see personally a huge value of access to the west, I'm sorry, to the east. For trail purposes or public access purposes, I'm sure there
You've got to connect it down into the river bottom to the power company. That's your best bet.
And there may be other landowners that would, that's a little more proximity to.
Yeah.
If that was a goal.
Yeah. It's an open space farm, basically. As I visited with Mr. Silva, the donation side of this could be a real potential maybe for him.
Well, that's what I was curious about. You know, it could be that's more appealing under the right circumstances. Since it may not tick all the boxes.
Right.
Right? Otherwise.
Yeah. Well, when they told me that a person could put a conservation easement on their property if they're willing to donate the 100%.
Yeah, right.
Just go do it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, and I've even talked about, and I still want to push it. I want us to have a workshop with the council or whatever, but an ability for us just to say, hey, we'll throw this amount at it. If you want it, it would be there for you.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, if it was, let's just say there was 100,000 number that we could do on a property like this.
Yeah.
They could take it or leave it. It's 100,000 they won't have otherwise. They can donate the rest.
Right.
I'd love that ability. It'd be
Yes.
massive for us to.
Well, it's really hard to piece all this together with 5 or 6 players.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes in and says, I want a conservation easement on my farm that I've had X number of years, is the county willing to put $50,000 in the pot? I'll donate the rest and we get a sponsor to watch it. It's a done deal.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a lot of nice little properties, right?
Yeah.
With that, yeah.
Is that maybe
You're
just
open.
covering administration costs if that's the hurdle?
But there's even less administration costs, right?
Exactly, so if you threw the administrative cost to get over the hurdle, then there you go.
Yeah. You've got some diehard farmers out there.
Yeah, you'd pick up a lot more properties that way too.
Right.
Steven, can we push that workshop forward?
I reached out to the council and they are interested, but they wanted to wait till after the budget was approved, which is going to be a few months. They've just been doing workshops every council meeting for the last
For the
3
budget.
months or last 2.5 months, and they're going to continue to do some for the next 2 months. So they wanted to wait till after.
Does that have to be done by the end of the calendar year?
I think they have to approve it by like the first week in December.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. Mr. Silva, have you thought about the funding of your project? What, those are the kinds of things typically that come in the second round, but have you thought much about that?
I haven't.
Okay. I was gonna ask also, Jeremy, I mean, is this an attractive project?
I think it is, and I've been in discussions with Mr. Silva. He came to me through the NRCS, so he had reached out to them for assistance in how to access those programs, and based on their discussions, NRCS contacted me and said, hey, I think this would be a good project fit for UDAP. So we've been in discussions. I'm actually gonna go after this meeting out for a site visit to look at the property.
Fantastic.
And the way we look at this is, again, talking about the food security, agricultural viability aspect, and what Mr. Wheeler said perked my ears up when he said this is the best piece out there, because we can look at viability in a couple different ways. You know, you can have a tremendous property that unto itself is a perfectly viable farm, and it sounds like to some extent we have that here. But then in an area like Cache Valley, you have to look at how that piece fits into the broader working landscape, you know, and how these pieces work together to create the agricultural production, food security that we want. And so, you know, you look for somebody like an anchor tenant out here, we kind of use that term of like the first person to dive in, and then these things can kind of snowball as their neighbors realize, oh, well, if they can do one, then maybe I could, and then you start to piece these larger pieces together. But it sounds like he's got, you know, kind of both boxes checked in terms of it's kind of a well-run, and I'm encouraged to hear him saying he's operating based on taking soil samples to NRCS and stuff, which is really encouraging. It's like, you know, sounds like a really well-run operation. So we have that small-scale viability, but we also have that as it fits into the broader working landscape piece too. So this is one I'm interested in pursuing, and we'll be in discussions to, you know, negotiate the terms maybe of a
Right.
deal to work together. So. And I'll tell you that you asked about funding. For the NRCS program, their eligibility requirement for a property like this would be 50% prime soils. So obviously he's well eligible to apply for that ASAP funding. So that, again, that would be 50% of the easement value we could apply to that for, and then we would be piecing it together from these other sources. So.
One consideration for the committee would be, you know, do we,
Wasatch Canal water.
what's the term I'm looking for? Not table, but, continue to allow for some of this other information to come in. You know, and I also, so I would say that's one thing. The other thing is too, also that, you know, as a first round application, you know, we can always, you know, move things forward so we can at least get to the numbers portion and see what we're talking about, and then also have a decision point to move forward or not. And there's, you know, there's not a tremendous amount of investment from the applicant at that point. It's really in that, beyond the second round, that the work and the money and everything becomes more important.
Well, I think you need to see the property this fall, not with snow on it. And it's a brand new pivot. They're gonna be in the process of getting ready to plant potatoes and grain. You know, it lays beautiful. It's been lasered up, so there's not a lot of imperfections in the soil on the slope. And he could break it into fives.
Potatoes, not a lot of potatoes in the valley.
The Karen Farms is the ones that had the potatoes on it.
Potatoes on it?
Yeah. There'll be potatoes on the other side, on the other half, you know, once that pivot went up, potential for potatoes really.
So is the land leased?
Yes.
You don't farm it yourself, you lease it?
I do farm myself, but every rotation, if I catch opportunities to lease it to somebody.
That matches up with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
He does the watering and the supervising. It's not a long-term lease, so.
So you mix
does
it.
the pivot cover?
It comes right behind the houses, and there's a couple of corners out of it. He's got an arm on it, so it's, so.
Gets most of it, it sounds like.
Pardon me?
Gets most of it, it sounds
Oh, yeah.
Is it centered right in the center of the
Yeah,
square?
yeah.
It covers 125.7 acres,
Okay.
Yeah.
and the rest I do.
Pretty efficient.
There's some wheel lines on the corners.
Yeah.
And,
Well, we would typically, you know, not necessarily take action at this sort of meeting, because we would want to go do a site visit and that sort of thing and then score it, right? So,
Yeah, I think it's clear that it would score quite highly on a couple of our boxes, and then quite not as highly on some of the others, but I'd love to see it.
I wouldn't mind seeing it too. and-
look at it. So.
Yeah.
How close is it to the Harris farm? I'm just trying to zoom in and play on my phone.
Here's south and west. I would guess 3 miles maybe.
farm is right
Okay.
here.
Okay.
It's west,
Halfway between Richmond and Clarkston.
yeah. The road goes through Amalga and then goes up through Trenton. And that state road comes across what we call the Conference Road. It's about the south boundary of the Harris property, basically. So.
If farmland's your priority,
Bring
this
your
is a
pickups
great
and we'll
part
load
of
them
the
with topsoil and then you can have a good.
valley.
So.
Good. How do you all feel about just moving forward as we have on other projects? Let's go take a look at it. Seems like everyone's interested in doing that, so staff will arrange a site visit with you, Mr. Silva, when it's convenient. And we'll come out and take a look. You can show us around, and then we'll come back and finish up our work on the first round application. Right, and you'll have more information from your visit with Jeremy, and, you know, any of the other things that we've brought up that you're willing to investigate further, I think will help your application.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does that sound good to everyone, committee members?
Yeah.
He'll probably feed us when we go out there, so. Come hungry. He's a pretty good cook. You can tell by looking at him, he's a good cook.
Okay.
No, we want the beefsteak.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, last item. We only have a few minutes, but is there anything we can accomplish with our gateway parcels?
We have a gap in the doc that would be actually more helpful to maybe wait till we have that.
Yeah, what we can do is we had Caleb put this together, which I unfortunately, he's new in our GIS team. And so he put together 2 maps that we put up there for us to look at. Essentially, the criteria was 10 acres. Let me see, I had it written down, so I didn't forget the criteria. It was 10 acres in size or greater, and closest point of the parcel was released within 1,000 feet of Highway 89. This was based on the conversation we had last month, where I unfortunately wasn't able to attend, but there is a gap between the 2 different maps that I didn't realize that we were missing until we talked right before the meeting. So if you want to, we can go through these today, or we can continue.
Sounds like we might be better served just getting a complete
Map.
map.
Can I ask for one other thing, is if we had the acreage with the parcel?
Yeah.
Yeah. To kind of know what the piece, like,
Yeah.
this is a significant piece, this is a minor piece.
I think the 2 cents I was gonna throw in there is like on the other map. Can you click on that, Stephen? Yeah, the other one. I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's capturing that subdivision right at the mouth of the canyon and including all those parcels. If so, maybe we drop those out, but if not, if I'm mistaken about that, then the list would be fine, but it seemed like a lot more landowners than I thought were in that corridor.
And is it 10 acres or 5 acres?
It should be 10 acres.
10 acres or larger?
If it's 10
Thank
acres,
you,
it
Mr.
shouldn't be those houses.
Should it be? Right.
I just
But
double
I'm
check
just
it.
Surprised that.
Yeah.
We can double check it.
Yeah, I think that's worth looking at, make sure.
Anything else for now? Sounds like maybe it's possible in 2 weeks we might have a site visit
Yeah,
or
I'll
so.
try to get something scheduled tomorrow or the next day, or get a couple time slots that I'll email out and see what works for the committee.
I would even go on a rainy day if you can have it rain.
Yeah.
You just want the rain.
I just want the rain.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
Work on that. We got some incentive there for you. It's getting.
I don't mind.
Maybe for our next monthly meeting, we can have a pretty good map and analysis.
Yes.
to talk through?
So a couple things that we do want to talk about is, now that we've been about a year, we would like to start to review our review process now that we've had a few applications to see what we need to fine tune. Like, for example, our finance department, the software they use to take applications for wraps, they said we could use that for these as well. That gives us some more tools that I previously didn't know where it was available. And so there's a couple things like that that I'd like us to look at. Also, just kind of as a point of interest, we are finishing up a feasibility study with the county, North Logan, Hyde Park and Smithfield for the Bronco Shoreline Trail. And we're getting some easement corridors identified. And the plan is we're gonna likely bring in a lot of those properties into this group for consideration, so.
Great.
We'll likely be.
For trail easement stuff, right?
Yeah, we are in the process of contacting property owners right now.
Great.
I'm going to go trail.
They get a big bonus
So
if they add,
is that on the radar for the properties up there as well?
Yes, it is. I would say Emily might know a little bit more about any updates on that. I know Providence is working on some access points, right?
Bear access from Cliffside down to Sumac.
Yeah.
Are there any particular difficulties, or is it just a matter of?
No, I think most of it is in between that area, because I think from Hiram to Logan.
For the deer fence, you mean?
Along the deer fence. I think some of the key points is parts of access. Providence is looking at building a park and a trailhead right now that will give you better or enhance access to that trail system. And so there's a few things like that that I know are coming down the line, but.
I do know, one thing that Logan City is looking at is, the Trapper Park, and they're connecting over to the new subdivision.
Yes.
But there's some, there might be a landowner or two that extends that and gets out to the main road, like the Mendon Road.
Oh, yeah, 600 South.
Yeah. So, that kind of makes a nice long go through there.
Yeah, so I think I would just bring it up because we've talked a little bit about trails tonight. I just wanted to let you know that there are a few projects that are kind of on the horizon that likely will be coming through.
Great.
Good.
Okay, anything else, committee members? Okay, if none, with no objection, we'll adjourn on time.